Regime preservation. Could you get a more pragmatic figure presiding over?
I'm Frank Vaughn. It's March 12th, 2026. I don't even know where to begin today, so I'll start with the music you just heard. It's a band called Woodsy Ypres. They're no longer around. The lead singer died tragically in an accident a couple days before Christmas many years ago. And I haven't even listened to that song in 12 or 13 years myself. It's called A Meeting Place and Time. And I don't know about you, but I got a photographic memory for music. I can hear rhythms and I can remember lyrics for songs that I heard when I was 5 years old. I've always been this way. And the lyrics to that song popped into my head last night, and I couldn't get them out. And the opening lyrics are, a meeting place in time. Our chance to make amends, whether to meet as planned or reach out for the cold upper hand. And then the song goes through a story, and it ends with the words, I hope it's cold every day where you are. And I think that sums up the acrimony, the nature of this battle, this war that has begun, which was begun by Israel and the United States, make no mistake. And the consequences are just materializing. As Trump literally dances with Jake Paul and endorses him for politics, as if it's not a sign of the end of your civilizational run when your pop culture stars are becoming politicians left, right, and center. That's not a good sign. If you're a student of history, you would know that. Blowhard, braggadocious exaggeration, and bombastic conduct will not hide over for much longer to all Americans the absolute disaster that is slowly unfolding hour by hour, day by day in the Middle East. I want to also say that if you're not moved, as I was when I put together that opening compilation, the closest thing on earth we have to God, to the Father, is little children. And the look that you'll see in their eyes, the innocence, the pure intake, the trust, the beauty of it. And to see all those kids, and it's not just Iranian kids, folks. There are kids being traumatized in Israel. This isn't a partisan report. The tragedy of this completely avoidable conflict falls hardest on those beautiful little pieces of the Father, these children who are running as the bombs are falling all around them. Dozens of schools bombed in Iran. And if not bombed directly, though some have, that double tap, I cannot believe that people are still denying that it was an American Tomahawk that didn't just hit that girls' school once. It hit it twice. Because in the video footage we have of the Tomahawk hitting, you can see it's already a smoking crater. They waited as a tactic, a double tap tactic. They waited until the rescuers got there before they hit them again. Now, they probably thought it was a military target, but it doesn't matter. These pure, innocent victims. And if it doesn't move your heart, if you don't understand how unnecessary all this pain, and we're going to get into the pain next, was completely avoidable, and it doesn't move your heart, I just don't know. I can't be that cold. I care about all the lives. And to see Trump dancing and partying with Jake Paul, I'll tell you, you know you're at the end of the rope when your celebrities are being endorsed for politics. Just look at Roman history. When the gladiators and the celebrities started becoming senators, the end of the rope was almost achieved. And he said silly things like, the Iranians' fighting capacity has been wiped out. They have no ballistic missile capacity. Is that true? If you were paying attention last night, and I was, as I worked until 3 a.m, again, They were launching wave after wave after wave last night, confirmed by the Israelis, confirmed by the Gulf states. Now, of course, they tell us they're suffering no damage. It's lies. I covered yesterday how Planet Labs is not releasing satellite data for 2 weeks, claiming they don't want to give the Iranians intelligence as if they don't have up to the second intelligence from the Russian and Chinese allies. It's to hide the extent of the bloody nose that the United States and Israel is getting in this thing, and every day that it continues, it's worse. And we're still, the Iranians aren't about to let anyone off the hook. They released demands yesterday. They said they want reparations, which is already a non-starter because as soon as you get into reparations, the Americans and the Israelis would have to admit they lost. So I don't think they're going to go for that because they're interested in a political win. And there were a couple other demands, guarantees, international guarantees that they will not be aggressed against again. This idea that it's a purely defensive action by the Israelis and the United States is completely absurd. This idea that the Americans have been one-sidedly attacked for 47 years, ignoring the Iraq-Iran war. We call it the Iran-Iraq war. It was actually the Iraq-Iran war because Iraq were the aggressors, where 500,000, by the end, 500,000 Iranians faced down 1.3 million Iraqis. The Iranians had been gassed and chemical weaponed to death. 300,000 people lost their lives, not just fighting people, but civilians as well. And they never gassed, they never chemically attacked the Iraqis back. And who ran that war? Reagan, Bush, and Rumsfeld. You want to pose to the world like you're innocent victims. You're not. It's not to say that the Iranians are pure as the driven snow. I've never said that. But this idea of posturing with this victim mindset to justify your actions, this was a blatant war of aggression by every definition. As much as Iran moved through proxies, so does America and so does Israel. Everybody's playing the same game against each other. Do you not think that the pagers that the Israelis blew up in Hezbollah's pockets, they didn't know where those pagers were? How many innocent people were targeted? Is that an act of terrorism from a certain perspective? Everyone's playing the game. And that's part of the problem, is we don't understand that the Western cause, the American cause, the Israeli cause is not pure. And I watched a rally last night, or I watched a piece of it. I had to turn it off in disgust because Trump is just lying through his teeth. He's talking about how the Iranians are defeated, how they have no capacity for ballistic missile construction or launching. And last night, if you were paying attention, you would have noted the fact that it was one of the heaviest nights of ballistic missile and drone fire since the war began from the Iranian side against the Gulf states and against Israel. And even though the cover-up and the censorship is massive in all of these nations, we know that it happened because the government confirmed it. They said they intercepted everything. It's not the case because we're seeing video leak out of fires shutting down refineries as the Persian Gulf slowly shuts down. And the Iranian regime, it's not going anywhere. Trump said they've been defeated. They have no leadership left. We've killed them 2-3 times over. They keep these talking points. Meanwhile, Iran is demonstrating that it has effective central leadership, that the regime is strong, and there are no plans to put ground troops in. Like if the United States decides it wants to take the Persian Gulf, if it wants to deploy the 82nd Airborne, it's got to go in with at least 80,000 men. They're going to go in under fire. They're going to suffer catastrophic losses. They'll probably be able to get the job done. But what a disaster. And depending on how long it takes, depending on what infrastructure gets destroyed, you see, there's no way to stop Iran from meeting escalation with escalation. U.S. intelligence has been clear this entire time, and I have been clear as well. Since June, when the 12-day war happened, I saw some of my own tweets come back up on my timeline yesterday as I was searching around Twitter. I was searching for terms and saw myself come back at me. My message has been the same this entire time, that a direct open war with Iran would be a catastrophic mistake. And it is. U.S. intelligence agrees with me, and yet the politicians and the people around Trump and the neocons decided to ignore that. I said yesterday on X, getting back to the point of Iranian demands, I said there will never be a cheaper deal than the one that they've presented today. We're going to look back on this moment, the moment that passed, because it's already passed as of this morning. We have the first statement from the new supreme leader out of Iran, and they've already changed what they're after. They won't stop. They will attack U.S. assets in the Middle East until every one of them is dismantled and pulled out. The only answer for the United States is to flee with their tail between their legs, according to the Iranians. Now, you can do with that what you like. You can say, the United States is almighty and they will just send in ground forces, even though you have no idea of the logistics challenges of that. There isn't the manpower. There is no plan in place to get that done. And if you did go into Iran, it would be a deeper quagmire than Afghanistan. People have no idea. I keep trying to show you what the United States has bit off here, what the Israelis have bit off here. And Trump is just walking around pretending he's won the war. And meanwhile, Trump told tankers to show some guts. Then they were bombed, which is another political hit. I mean, we're watching, and this is a tragedy to me. You're watching the end of MAGA. You're watching the end of Don Roe. You're watching it unfold in real time. It's game over. There's no reason for the Iranians to stop. Everybody on the planet knows they can't trust Israel, and they know now they can't trust the United States. What incentive? The supreme leader, injured, maybe maimed. Maybe he's not even alive. It doesn't matter. Because even if he's not alive already, the regime survived, and it's much more hardline now, and it thinks it's in an existential war with people who are willing to die to preserve the idea of the Persian nation. They're not going to have it imposed from the outside. At any rate, it's about much more than oil. I'm just going to give you a few talking points that I've prepared about all the other things outside of oil that this affects. Please, 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 on screen. Denmark urges citizens to avoid driving as oil prices spike. It's not about the price. It's about availability. Europe is running out of natural gas. Hang on, we'll do the Nepal thing next, because yesterday I covered how Bangladesh was starting to shut down and ration. Now you might think, oh, it's just poor illiterate people on the other side of the planet. Why do I care? Because it's a ripple. It's going to spread. Nepal to ration cooking gas due to panic over feared shortage. It's not panic over a feared shortage. It is a shortage that's baked in. If the strait stays closed, the shortage is baked in. It's everybody's couching this in language that doesn't make any sense. The situation is dire on screen. Half of available global LNG tankers are trapped in the Persian Gulf and can't get their product to market. People keep saying, I keep hearing this Promethean intelligence psyop nonsense that this is all about beating China. But you know who we're going to beat first? The same people who are telling you this is all about China, it's part of a master plan, the people who are telling you that Trump's been in charge, that the Biden administration never happened, that Q is right, all of this fantastical narrative building, these people told you the Supreme Court would never make a decision against Trump's tariffs. They did. They also told you that Trump has already liberated Japan single-handedly. Japan will suffer the worst. 90% Gulf oil share. They have 150 days of strategic reserves. South Korea, 100 days of strategic reserves. India, a critical U.S. linchpin. The old world and the new world are fighting over India. India might actually prove to be a mediator in this. Or maybe they'll just bypass the United States and the West altogether. The headline on screen, first oil tanker to India crosses Strait of Hormuz, arrives at Mumbai port, because the Indians are talking directly to the Iranians about getting their ships through, and it looks like the Iranians are allowing it. They did it for China, too. So if this is about China, why is it China and India are getting special treatment? Why is Trump signaling that he is trying to make sure that China doesn't get harmed in this? These people, I swear, they're intelligence operations covering up the malfeasance of Mossad and the CIA. But back to our little graphic here. The next nation on the list, which isn't a nation, it's part of the Republic of China, is Taiwan. 75% of their oil comes from the Gulf. They have very modest strategic reserves. Now, this graph is not entirely accurate because China has far greater strategic reserves than 90 days. And the interesting thing about Taiwan is as Taiwan gets cut off, their supplies get cut off, they have a very limited ability to maintain their defense. And China has gotten quiet. China's military, this is on screen, has quietly cut flying near Taiwan. For years, China's flown military jets near Taiwan almost daily, and they suddenly stopped. leaving analysts to wonder why. I have been talking about the Iran war. I've been talking about how it was foolish since the very beginning because it would end up concentrating U.S. assets in the region without a plan to go in by ground. You can't beat them by air. No air campaign in the history of the world has forced capitulation. It's created chaos, but it didn't force the Germans to surrender. The Japanese were on the verge of surrendering. I guess you could say dropping 2 nukes on them was the icing on the cake. They would have surrendered anyway. I think that's a very clear historical case that we can make. But this just creates an opportunity. It's March now. Well, the weather is perfect for crossing the Taiwan Strait. Have the Chinese gone quiet because they're intending to take advantage of this opening? The U.S. stockpile of interceptors is almost completely gone. They're moving their interceptors out of South Korea to go to the Middle East on an ad hoc basis. I don't know how people don't understand that the American response here. They're scrambling. They're making it up as they go because they really genuinely thought, because they didn't understand their opponent, that they could go in and martyr the Ayatollah, creating a new Ayatollah who lost his wife and I think his mother and his father and a child, I believe, and also got wounded himself, creating an Ayatollah, a living martyr to the Shia. And somehow they thought this was just going to magically work out. I think the plan was that superficial. In spite of history telling us that bombing campaigns don't work this way, they went ahead with it anyway. And now all their forces and all of their ammo and all of their munitions, all their highly technically valuable stuff is steaming to the Middle East to try and figure out a way to cut this Gordian knot. All the while, it's opening an opportunity for China to announce to the world that it is indeed a global hegemon, that it is a power. And they do that by taking Taiwan. And what could the Americans say now? What could the world possibly signal? I'm going to show you something else that I find absolutely ridiculous to make this point. The world as a collective community has showed absolutely no balls here. They have condemned Iran's attacks on the Gulf states, never talking about the fact that Iran is attacking U.S. assets that are being actively used to attack them from those Gulf states. They've condemned that, but they can't get it together enough to actually condemn the United States and Israel for attacking Iran in the first place. That's going to change. People are going to come around. The wrath of the world is going to end up being targeted in the other direction in short order. Everybody knows who's responsible for starting this thing. And we have some billionaires who gave you, the article on screen is, who gave you permission? Is the Gulf finally questioning the U.S.-Israeli war? This is from March 6th. And this is Emirati billionaire Khalif Ahmad Al-Habtour issued an unusual direct public message questioning Trump's decision to wage war on Iran. His criticism is politically significant because he is closely connected to UAE elites and regional decision-making circles. They understand who brought this fire down on them, and now Iran is demanding the dismantling of U.S. bases. Eventually, the Gulf countries are going to concede. Do you understand that nothing goes back? Nothing goes back in its proper place after this. Dubai will never be the same. The Gulf nations will never be the same. We've crossed a bridge into new territory. You're watching the undoing of the U.S. empire in real time in one of the greatest cell phones in geopolitical history. And people are still going to disagree. You're just going to have to disagree. Events are going to demonstrate exactly what I'm saying. This is another one. 8 Arab Islamic countries condemn Israeli closure of Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now, you could argue one way or another whether that's a bad thing or a good thing or whatever you want to do, but they didn't come together to condemn the opening act of the war against Iran. For the second time in 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, since the 12-day war, for the second time, attacking Iran directly under a flag of diplomacy, under the flag of truce, just destroying international norms and sending a signal to the world that they can't be trusted. Nobody seems to be able to summon the balls to condemn that. They just condemn Iran. And until that gets sorted out, until we start being honest about that, we're not getting any closer to a solution. Iran is only going to get more and more hard line. And again, in spite of the glowing prognostications of the president, who is on a different planet from reality, the Iranians maintain their capacity to do damage. They're sinking ships in the Gulf. They're trying to figure out how to let through traffic they want through, but they are clearly intent on choking out the Americans and the Europeans and everybody that they perceive as an enemy. This is not carrying water for Iran. It's understanding their position and how they see this war. The U.S. thinks they can just walk away. They can't. they now have to pay reparations. They now have to abide by Iranian positions, demands. And you may think they're silly because the Americans can just nuke them. Do you know what happens if they do? It may not even defeat them. I have doubts that nuclear weapons can undo the hundreds of meters deep facilities that they've built, especially in eastern Iran, which hasn't even really been bombed yet. Do you understand this thing hasn't even began? Their ballistic missile capability, their drone capability, every single day they're going to show you that they can keep going. And every single day it's going to be harder and harder to lie to yourself. Now, before I digressed massively, I said I was going to talk about the other consequences outside of oil when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. On screen is an article, U.S. military not ready to escort oil ships through Hormuz. Officials say Iran's Mujtaba Khamenei says strait will remain closed as Donald Trump claims U.S. benefits from high oil prices. Now, it's a good thing that they're not willing to commit U.S. ships, but every day that they don't furthers the problem to the world. It's not just about oil. It's about fertilizers. 1/3 of global trade, including nitrogen-based urea and ammonia from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE, is critical for crop yields to feed the world. The longer this goes on, with spring coming, crops don't get planted, and we create a crisis down the road towards the fall, towards the winter, when the U.S. president is looking to get his party reelected, and he's out campaigning on his easy victory in Iran. The optics are so bad. Petrochemicals and industrial chemicals, major exports like ethylene, methanol, plastics, and feedstocks from the Gulf states, vital for manufacturing plastics, rubber, electronics, batteries, and everyday products. Refined petroleum products, diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, crucial for transportation, pharmaceutical inputs, raw materials, and intermediates like petrochemically derived compounds support global drug production. Are you on prescription drugs? You might want to look into how this might impact your supply. Some drugs you can't just stop taking. Nobody's talking about that just yet, how this could impact things. We're thinking about it here. We're not on any prescription drugs, but we're picking up a few things to make sure we've got them in the medicine cupboard because who knows what may happen. Aluminum and metals, helium, sugar, other commodities. The Persian Gulf is about so much more than oil, even though oil is a primary driver. Trump is set to suspend the Jones Act to help tame oil prices. Good luck. It's like pissing on a fire. You're going down the list of the very limited things that you can do. Crude is, it's up. We crossed $100 a barrel for Brent last night. We're kind of back down, but this is a slow up and to the right trajectory, day by day, hour by hour. The Iraqis shut down their port. They're shutting down production. The entire Gulf region will be shut down and will not be producing oil soon because there's nowhere to put it. That has consequences. The Iranians are blowing up oil storage depots. It's blistering. It's withering. It's crippling what they're doing, and they can only hide it for so long. The serious damage, this stupid activation of this war has caused. Thankfully, they're not willing to commit yet. I think that'll change. And this is Michael Every of Rabobank, but it's reposted on Zero Hedge. Why constant talk of taco is likely wrong with both sides escalating. The big mistake that a lot of commentators and a lot of people, including the administration itself, are making at this point is by thinking they're still in control to dictate events. They're not. The United States can't just walk away and say, we won. Like, you got to listen to this.
The president's remarks last night that he could declare victory today and it would be a 100% victory. I think it's true. I think we ought to say to our heroes, thank you for a job well done. This has been absolutely amazing. It's been astounding. It's been historic. And now it's time to declare victory.
These people are utterly delusional. There's a lot to parse here with this piece of propaganda because every single channel is putting U.S. Central Command's unclassified videos of hits on loop. So they've always got this on screen. You're being programmed to think that what Josh Hawley, a senator, is saying is true. They're delusional. They can't just declare victory and walk away. Iran has said, we're not going to allow it. You will pay us reparations, and we'll keep hitting your bases until they're deconstructed. And, that was another demand that they made. was that all embassy and diplomatic officials, all relations, all presence of the United States in the Gulf region will be forced out. That's their demand. Now, you can think all you like that they're not in a position to make demands. They control the strait. And in spite of all the rhetoric, Trump saying, show some balls as he parties in Mar-a-Lago, telling tankers to show some balls, and they do. 5 of them get hit. The Iranians have these underwater torpedoes. I don't know if you know this. You can travel like 100 meters a second. They've got them. Only they and the Russians have them. It's pretty crazy stuff. The Americans are saying that the Iranians have no effective navy, and yet they keep blowing up tankers. And if they have no navy and they are of no force and effect, why isn't the U.S. Navy going into the strait and opening it up? You see what I mean? The actions speak louder than the words. And eventually this delusion that this U.S. senator, look at the smile, these fake these fake people who think they can lie their way through this and just somehow get out. It ain't going to be that easy. And if you know where to look, you'll see the cracks starting to show. You'll see that there are people who are trying to figure it out. Italian military to temporarily withdraw from attacked Erbil base. There'll be nothing temporary about it. They're just using diplomatic words to soften the blow of what this actually means. Spain, on the other hand, is going full ham. Spain removes ambassador from Israel. Madrid has permanently terminated a diplomatic position as the rift with West Jerusalem deepens over the attack against Iran. They won't be alone for long, folks, as the suffering sinks in. You know, I made a tweet yesterday with Iraq being shut down, with their bases already under attack and bombing campaigns. How long until wide-scale civil unrest breaks out in Iraq over this? How long until there's a full-blown civil war? You could see the monarchies fall in relatively short order. I'm not trying to be a doomer. I'm looking at the facts as they stand right now. Iran is not beat. They are not militarily nullified. The regime has not been changed. Trump is on a different planet, and you can keep listening to him, or you can start believing the reality on the ground. And Iran vows, this is just 15 minutes ago from Al Jazeera. Now, again, you know, there's people that are they're not even aware of the world. They say, why would you believe Al Jazeera? Well, it's not that I believe them. It's that Al Jazeera is based in Qatar. Qatar is under attack by Iran. They're hosting U.S. forces. They have an anti-Israeli bias. They're conflicted, which makes them decent to watch. It's like CNN. People say, why would you ever watch CNN? CNN put a crew on the ground in Iran to tell the story of what's happening on the ground there. I don't care who's doing it. It could be the Young Turks. If they actually want to go there and do journalism, I'm willing to tune in and check it out. You can call it propaganda. But I think the things I'm spelling out before you right now speak for themselves. Iran vows to make Trump sorry for grave miscalculation, says National Security Chief, in yet another defiant message addressed to the U.S. President. Ali Larijani, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, said Tehran will not relent until making you sorry for this grave miscalculation. They're not going to surrender. This isn't the swim in your own blood speech of Saddam Hussein circa 1990. This is a whole different set of circumstances. And you can drop gravity bombs on them all you want. You can drop Moabs. I think they've dug their bases deeper in the ground than even Moabs can penetrate. Blow up as many empty buildings as you want. At the end of the day, you're either going to give in to some of their demands or you're going to have to climb the escalation tree, which means cobbling together a ground invasion. Can you imagine in 2026 having committed this grave error to then decide to commit ground forces in a very ill-conceived and ad hoc plan to go in and try and open up the straits and take out Iran in a prolonged ground war, as the United States is signaling to the world that it wants to get out? Like I said before, what incentive does Iran have to let the United States off the hook, to let Israel off the hook? And the answer is zero. They know they will be betrayed again. And again, I'm not carrying water for them. I'm just here to tell you what is. You'll figure it out in due time. And by the way, for all of you people, because it's not just the Iran thing, I'm getting the mickey taken out of me because I made a post yesterday as if I don't know the consequences of the things I'm going to say. I made a post yesterday spelling out the reasons that I have respect for Mark Carney. Respect is not like. Respect is not love. Respect is recognizing the superiority of your opponent. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, very muscular guy. He's about an inch taller than I am, and he has one corded knot of muscles. And I said to him, if I was trying to take you out, I have to recognize and respect your physical prowess. I'm probably going to have to get you in your sleep. That's what respect is. And I don't want to take this guy out or anything. It was just a conversation. But you have to respect your opponent. The big red machine in Canada has a hold on the psychology of the Canadian mind, which you must respect in order to defeat it. You can't cater to it. You have to fight it. And to fight it, you have to respect it. And I made that post knowing that every idiot in the woodwork was going to come out and say that I was praising Mark Carney, that I loved Mark Carney, that I was a left-wing nut job, and sure as shit, pardon me, I'm trying not to. But sure enough, they show up. They do exactly what I'm trying to get them to do. Because I'm not here to preach to a choir. I really want to engage with people who think I'm stupid. I want to engage with people, as much as it drags me down sometimes. What is the point of this mission if it isn't to reach people, to make them understand, to make MAGA understand the gravity of the miscalculation that the Trump administration has engaged in while he dances and parties? Politically, this is a nightmare already. I don't know how MAGA survives this. I don't think it can already, no matter what the outcome is. But if there's even a slim chance that we can get this thing over with before it goes to a stage that I don't even want to contemplate, even though I am. My wife is out right now picking up a few things, and I'm hoping we can get to spring and summer so that I can work on a powerless water supply. Even though I live in an area, by the way, if you're a Saskatchewan viewer, know that Saskatchewan is much better positioned than, say, in Ontario to weather this storm, with natural gas and coal and hydroelectric making up most of our electrical capacity. We might run into repair issues, but it's unlikely that the grid's going to go down. And in terms of gasoline shortages, sure, it's going to be expensive, but there will probably be availability for a long time. But the rest of the world, as the suffering increases, let me finish here. There is a chain of predictable outcomes, but there's a subset that branches off of those predictable outcomes that is completely unpredictable. There's no way to know how this thing evolves because the entire order of the world has been collapsed and nobody has any idea of what the new thing looks like. What I had hoped for was an orderly decline, that there was a recognition by the U.S. administration, a brain trust, that recognized the U.S. empire could not maintain itself, that it's overstretched, that it's unprepared, that the economy's in tatters, that the money isn't sound, and that they were going to fix that by deconstructing the empire and focusing that American military might on righting the problems in the Western Hemisphere. Because whether or not I like state power, whether or not I like killing, I recognize that there's a certain amount of that that's always going to happen throughout historical times, and my mission or my goal is to hopefully see it limited. And I thought the Venezuela operation was limited. They went in, they got Maduro, they got him out, they forced the cooperation of the Venezuelan regime. I guess they thought they could do the same thing with Iran. They were dead wrong. It's so bad. And the first step to getting towards a solution is to waking everyone up to the very real reality that we're all in right now. If you're still with me and you appreciate the work, consider supporting it via the website. I'll see you in the next one.